Overcoming call reluctance and getting big results and success in a very short period of time. If that's something interesting to you, you're listening to the right episode of the Loan Officer Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kiles. We are powered by the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And hey, on this episode, one of the things I want to do is I want to highlight somebody in our second class of the 8-week boot camp. And so if you've been on the journey with me on the for the last several months, one of the things we did was back a few months ago, there was a demand, not demand, but really people were saying, hey, I am starting over as a day one loan officer. It's almost like starting over. I'm committed. I'll do the work. If I could be in a micro community and a group of people moving in the same direction with clarity, some coaching, I feel like I could get accelerated results. So we launched a boot camp, an 8-week boot camp. And now I wanted to highlight someone who's in the second class and just what I have seen the transformation over the last 4 weeks. This Tuesday will be our 5th week of coaching in the 8-week boot camp. And Ryan Pope, you're with me today, my man. What's up, brother?
How you doing, Steve?
Man, I'm great. Hey, and listen, so I just out of the blue last week, I'm like, brother, we got to have you on the podcast because one of the things that I love is you and I met before the boot camp, and we were talking, and a big challenge that I see in so much of the marketplace goes back to the belief, number one, that you can, and number two, getting past the call reluctance of, man, I don't know how to get started, I don't know what to say. And so in our 8-week boot camp, last week we did a competition, which was who can book the most qualified agent appointments and keep them in the same week. And you, my man, won. But it's not just 1 week. You've been doing this since we started, and it's exciting to see your results. So I thought, man, let's get Ryan on the call, on the podcast, and let's talk a little bit about the success you're seeing in restarting the prospecting engine in your business. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your story, man. I know we're fellow restaurateurs. But tell our listeners who don't know who you are a little bit about yourself and how you got into the business.
Sure. Sure. Well, thanks for having me. Super honored to be here. I am Ryan Pope from Brunswick, Georgia, on the coast. Brunswick Stew, same town, about halfway between Savannah and Jacksonville, if you don't know where we are. So, I was a restaurant guy down here for 11 years, 15 years in the business, family business, owned and operated some different things. And I wanted to be around with my family more. And
Yeah.
so I had a finance degree from the University of Georgia. So I like numbers, but I love relationships. And so I really dove in trying to find relational sales in this industry. That's exactly what it is. And so here I am, less than a year later, and diving in. And super happy to have met you and the MMA family.
Yeah, I love it. So you've been in the business a little bit less than a year, and what your goal, like even coming into the 8-week boot camp, was, Steve, I've got to figure out how to ramp up quickly. And because I mean you're literally the provider of your family. So it's like, hey, there's no plan B. And that's what I love about what you're doing. And so tell me a little bit about this. So here you are, less than a year in the business, done a handful of loans, and really your goal is, I mean, I know you've got a significant goal in building your business, but when you approach the boot camp, why did you want to be a part of the 8-week boot camp? What did you see that it would help you do, or what was it that said, hey, I got to be a part of that?
Sure. The biggest thing for me was the accountability drawing
Yeah.
me in. I tried last fall to dive in on the DSP on my own, and knew that I needed a little more accountability, a little more guidance on it to really nail it down. And so I had the opportunity, reached out to you, and here we are. Super glad I did it.
Yeah. Hey, well, and okay, so let's talk about this. So here you are, you're walking into a boot camp. You know about the daily success plan, you know about the activities. We start week one. What are your thoughts, and how did you, like, what helped you start doing the work, so much so that you're literally in this class that we have each boot camp? I'm calling it a class, which is so cool because there's micro community. We've got text going on and competitions going on. And literally you and Tommy and Brian are like leading the charge. And I'm watching you guys not only doing it, but getting excited about the calls and the follow-up and the activity. So talk about it. Week one, what's your mindset? You come in, like walk us through that.
Yeah. Week one, in my head, I thought I knew what I needed to do. But the car reluctance was real.
Yeah.
Reaching out and starting over again is always hard. So I was nervous, but I kept hearing you say that clarity comes in action.
Yeah.
Um, and anything worth doing is worth doing badly, right? So truly, my first three phone calls were bad, but I was like, man, I got started though, right? So that's the win. One of them I just laughed and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, this is a terrible phone call. I'll call you the next week." Um, so I did that, and yeah, and then diving in, like you said, to the community. Really special group we got, and everybody's just positive and cheering each other on, and that's always awesome.
Yeah, and you know one of the things too, Ryan, is in the boot camp, what we talk about is, I mean, there's all kind of ways to get business. There's financial planners, attorneys, and CPAs and all that. But one of the things we do in this 8 weeks is how do I get my first fast results? How do I build the pipeline the fastest? And we talk about it is that 35% of every relational referral that was referred to a loan officer came from a realtor partner. So that's why we focus on qualified agents first and then past clients second, because 27% of the entire marketplace, they were referred to a loan officer by a friend, family, or coworker. And so what's important about that is if we really work hard and dial a process in around realtors, number one, and the sphere of influence and past clients, number two, that's 67% of what was referred to a relational referral to a loan officer. And so, Ryan, that's something that we started with is you got to have a list, right? You got to know who you're calling that's actually qualified. And then the next thing is, okay, what do I say? That we work through that. I know that we've got the script book, we've got the process, we run the daily success plan play. And the third part is leveraging the accountability within the group where we all jump on calls and are making calls outbound together for 2 hours a day. And in that, really holding us accountable. So your first few days, not great calls, but how do you push through that? How do we know that, okay, focusing on realtors is going to build the business the fastest? I've got a little bit of what to say. I'm learning the process of what to do. But how did you push through your first three? How come you didn't quit? And what happened over the next couple of weeks for you to literally be posting up the most qualified agent appointments on a weekly basis, man? That's a big deal.
I appreciate that. It's the competitive spirit in me is big, so having the competition,
Yeah.
but learning how to turn it into a game almost
Okay.
is fun, and having the numbers to track helps me do that. But the other thing is leaning into the group, leaning into the people, and for me, it was celebrating that first big win, that
Okay.
first whale that said, "I'd love to meet with you," and sending that to the group chat, and people just, man, go get them. That's so awesome, and getting that win
Yeah.
uh, was very encouraging. And so I do every day. I try to finish my calls and I track my numbers, and then I say, okay, now where are the wins, and I put them next to my numbers on my spreadsheet. So
Yeah. Hey, before you got in the boot camp, how many calls a week were you making?
not many. It was I was making them to current deals,
Yeah.
the Tuesday just ask calls and the occasional pal call, but that
Yeah.
no necessarily no outbound sales calls outside of that.
How many outbound calls are you making, you think, a week now?
120 this week will be 140.
Wow, brother, that's amazing. Well, and not only that, you're making effective outbound calls because I think it was last Monday, if I'm not mistaken, you had text the numbers in and it was something like you'd made 50 or 60 outbound calls and were able to get something like 7 appointments. I think 5 booked from the 50, but that day you booked 7 qualified agent appointments, right? So they're getting
Yeah,
effective.
so last Monday was 60 calls, 7 appointments set, and
Wow.
then Tuesday was better. Tuesday was 45 outbound calls, 9 appointments set. It was a record day for me.
Hey, and listen, but this is only that last week was only 4 weeks in. Isn't that amazing that like from going from hardly any, and look, we're not proponents, just so everybody knows on, and y'all know me on the podcast. My goal isn't that you make cold calls and outbound. The goal is you're building a warm network of realtors that are qualified who can relationally send you business. And in the beginning, like with Ryan, who's new to the business, there's going to be more outbound cold calls, but some of you, you don't even need a cold call. You just need to go after the warm agents that knew, like, and trust you. They just fell off because we didn't follow up. And the key in sales is not waiting for the phone to ring, but where are the opportunities that we can be proactive in our sales activity and ask for the business, because whoever makes the most offers gets the most no's will end up making the most money. And so, hey, so Ryan, let's talk about this. So, man, just major progress. Let's talk about this. So in 3 weeks, your mindset is you're slugging through it, and it's like, okay, I'm getting better. To where last week it almost feels like you're having fun with it. What are you doing on your calls? Let's talk about it. That's a lot of success. 7 appointments on Monday, 9 appointments on Tuesday. You didn't make 500 outbound calls. You made 50-ish. And that's pretty good. So let's talk about it. What are you saying? What does the call look like?
Um, for me, the magic sauce thus far has been taking the scripts from MMA and making them true to me
Okay.
and sounding like me. So I'm from the South, proud of it, and we talk a little slower and move a little slower down here. So I slowed it down and made it more conversational
Yep.
for me, and knowing knowing the objections that are coming.
Yep.
Um, and being prepared for those as well, but just feeling comfortable in that script like it sounds like me. And
Mm.
my script's not going to be perfect for everybody. It's great for me because it's true to who I am.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, in the framework, what's the framework you're using for your script? Is it still the, hey, I'm a student of success. I'd love to hear your story. And then you've just taken that bullet point and adapted it to you and the pace of your conversations and how I mean, it's just working for you, man.
That's right. That's right. That's pretty much it. So
Hey, well, what are the
it is.
objections? You
Hey,
just
I'm a
said
student of
this.
success.
You've been making a lot of calls. You're hearing a lot of yeses, a lot of nos. So what are the top 2 or 3 objections you're hearing?
For sure, I
20?
already have a lender.
Yep. Okay.
I already have a lender. Uh, the toughest one is when they just say, "Hey, look, I'm not interested." Bam.
Yeah.
You know, in the conversation, they don't want to go any farther than that. So that's number two. And then lastly, hey, I'm busy. Call me next week, which
Yep.
depending on the vibe I get, I just either call them next week or push through that.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this. Out of the, how many times do you get objections? So you talk to 20 people, how many of them will push back on an objection?
At least half.
Yeah, so
Um,
10.
Probably, yeah, probably more than that.
10 to 12, 13 out of 20. Okay. Hey, and then the objections are, I already have a lender, I'm not interested, or I'm busy. Are there more? Just primarily those three.
Primarily those three, different versions of that. I'm in an
Yeah.
appointment, uh, things like that.
I love it. Hey, and then so now you're just learning how to overcome those objections and in overcoming, hey Ryan, we talked about this in one, I remember one of the calls. It goes back to, you remember, like if you go to Nordstrom's or you go to a department store, and wherever you shop, and you walk in and the salesperson always going to tell you, "Hey Ryan, can I help you with anything?" And what are you always going to say?
No, I'm good right now. I'm just looking.
I'm just looking, right? And what we have found is, and that's why I love it. And I love the fact you've really gamified it. Like I can watch it in the text and the conversations and on our coaching call. When you realize it's not a personal objection, I'm still trying to win. Like I still want to get a meeting with you. And it's like it takes all of that negative out. But I think part of it is this. It goes back to the belief that you're enough. And we talked a little bit about that in the attractional leadership. I think it was week 3. The reality is you're only looking for your 25. You're 25% of the population that knows, like if they get to know you, they're going to love you to death. That's it. How do I get there faster? And then gamify it so that I can get rid of the 75 that is not my tribe and attract the 25 that is. And what's been fun to watch in your activity is this, Ryan. I think people say, when I get better, I'll make more calls. And I think
They
you
do say
proved the opposite of that.
that. You get better through action for sure. Just
Yeah.
more reps has made me better. And I'll jump in here too. Your why matters a ton.
Mm,
The days I don't want to make the calls, the days I don't, the way that I don't want to be there, the days I don't want to hear no. I just remember that my wife and two little ones at home are counting on me and they're supporting me. And guess what? I can come home and go 0 for 60 on phone calls and they're going to love me anyway. So
yeah.
uh, that's a strong and powerful motivator.
Yeah. Hey, and you just said something too, Ryan, and I think people have to understand it doesn't matter how good you get. You still have days you don't want to show up. And that's what I love about the calendar. That's what I love about this group and the boot camps, because we keep them to 12 people so that it creates this amazing micro community of accountability. And guess what, Ryan? You're not showing up for you, you're showing up for Tommy. You're showing up for Brian, and you're showing up for each one of the people that are in that group that you said, hey, we're all showing up. We're going to make our 2 hours of outbound calls. And I think that there's something to be said because, oftentimes it's like, where's the silver bullet of I'm going to feel like it every day? No, you're not going to feel like it every day. Matter of fact, maybe not even half the time. However, accountability and community with a clear plan is what keeps you going and seeing results. And so, brother, I am so proud of the progress in what you're doing right now and the results you're seeing, even only 4 weeks in, because the conversations and the relationships you're building are going to serve you well here in the next, we know this, what you do today affects your 90-day fundings. And so we'll keep talking about it. We'll pull you back into a future episode on the podcast where we can highlight the results that are starting to come from your activity. And brother, I just wanted you to be able to share. Hey, give us some thoughts. Well, and let me say this. If somebody wants to know, well, how do I get to be a part of the 8-week boot camp, go to loanofficersuccess.com, loan officer success, fill out, I think there's like 5 pieces of information. Myself or Krista, one of us will reach out to you and really just make sure that the boot camp would be a good fit for you. Loanofficersuccess.com. We have one coming up here in the next week. Loanofficersuccess.com, loanofficersuccess.com. So Ryan, let's do this. I know we're a little over 20 minutes, but I want to just give us some closing thoughts for somebody who is listening today and says, man, I feel like I'm starting over. I'll tell you what the majority of the audience is right now. 67% of the loan officer community closed less than 1.5 transactions last month. And the reality is most people feel like they're a day one loan officer. What do I do? It's just where you were 5 weeks ago when you and I talked, and it's like, brother, this is my Hail Mary. I got my back's against the corner and I'm going to do this, right?
That's right. That's right. I would say that you're not alone, and to find the people who are going to build you up. And then my other encouragement is to do the work. the the numbers work, and yeah, it's hard and it's a grind some days. Make sure your why is right there, but grind it and follow the numbers and know that you're not alone. Find a community that's going to support
Yeah. Brother, I love that. Hey, and there's things we talk about in the boot camp, and I'll tell you there's 4 of them. Number one, it's the math. And that's what you're talking about, Ryan. You know what's great about the math? The math takes all the emotion out. If I make 100 calls, I'll talk to 25 realtors, I'll book 4 appointments and 3 will keep. That's just, I mean, it's just math. And what I know is I take the emotion of it and just say, look, it's a math equation. How many calls equal how many results over how much time? And then the second one is skill. And that's where what you've really implemented so quickly is I'm doing so many calls that I've learned the top 3 objections are rebuttals and the objections. And now I've got the rebuttals to overcome them. And you know what the third one is? It's the discipline of, am I going to get up? Am I going to show up? Am I going to be accountable? Am I going to have a micro community that we're moving in the same direction? And the fourth one, which I have seen probably the greatest breakthrough for you, has been the belief that you can. And that belief is now becoming infectious with everybody else around you. And they're sitting here watching the results you're getting. And to be candid, it's because you chose to show up and be accountable and do the work. And so, man, I'm so honored to be on your journey and just proud of you and the progress. And I know your family's proud too, man.
Hey, thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure, and loved getting to know you. As a bonus for the boot camp, you get to hang with Steve a good bit, which is awesome. So,
It's awesome, man. We're having fun. Hey, again, if you want to know more about the boot camp, uh, also do this. Keep an eye on Ryan's progress because we'll highlight him again here in the next few months. Just excited to see what the boot camp is doing for loan officers' lives. Whether you're, at 0 to 1 or 2 units a month, or whether you're at 8 to 12 and trying to get to 20 units a month, these boot camps are for you. And we'd love to be a part. I want to be a part of your story. Go to loanofficersuccess.com, loanofficersuccess.com. From Ryan and myself, remember this: anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See you.